Hi everybody, I'm back and ready to demonstrate to you the emulator and how it works with the Eclipse. So I'm going to bring up VirtualBox, if I can find it. There it is. And I'm on a different computer. This computer has almost 2 gigabytes of RAM on it, of memory on my hard drive available, which is fantastic. And then, because I had so much room, I decided to create, and what I did is I recreated the emulator with a 2 gigabyte, because I have so much room on this computer. 2 gigabyte virtual hard drive, and I went ahead and installed the generic. This is the same ISO that I downloaded and was running the ISO file in the previous video. To install it, you just select the menu option that comes up from the grub menu to install it to the hard drive, and then after you install it, you go into the settings menu, which I've just pressed on a few minutes ago, and click on System, and then set the boot order to boot to the hard drive instead of the CD-ROM drive. And I was mistaken on the other computer that I was on earlier for part 1. I only had 2 gigabytes on that computer, so ideally you want to have about 4 gigabytes. You want to have about 4 gigabytes of RAM on that computer. If you're going to run the emulator and you're going to run if you're running on a MacBook, you're running on the emulator, and you're also going to be running Eclipse. And for me personally, because I'm doing the video stuff, 4 gigs works great. The 2 gig was actually kind of taxing, I think, memory-wise, which is why that emulator wasn't loading as quickly. So you'll see it load here a little bit faster on the 4 gig. So the more memory you put on the computer, long story short, the better everything's going to work. But if you do install it to the virtual hard drive that you create, go ahead and leave the memory at 512, which is what I did. You can increase it if you want, but it's better for multitasking. But change the boot order to the hard drive. And if you change it to the hard drive, when you press on the Start menu, it'll load from the hard drive instead of the ISO. So this is the same menu as we saw before, except for I actually customized my grub. And you can do that as well by going in and editing the menu.list file that's part of grub. And that's really a Unix concept, actually. If you're familiar with Linux, and if you've ever worked with, this is just standard GNU grub menu that's being used with the Android Emulator. And so I selected an option to say run Android Emulator. So I'm going to select that option. And I made the font kind of big. I made the resolution really big on this so that I wouldn't have to zoom in and zoom out all the time. So we should be seeing the emulator loading up here. It says detecting Android x86, found the hard drive that I created, and now we're going to load the emulator. This is running a little bit slower because I'm recording at the same time, but it is still faster, and it is still less buggy than the Android emulator that you run from the Eclipse when you select to run the Eclipse emulator. But anyway, as you see, it kind of came up, and now my mouse is actually kind of workable in the emulator screen as well, which is a bonus. And one of the advantages you have to actually installing it is that you can go ahead and save stuff. So what I did is I put the settings and I put the dev tools out on my desktop. And I want to make sure I actually have internet access. So I'm going to go to bhacker.com and make sure my website comes up, which it should, hopefully. And just test my internet connectivity. Oh, good. Well, maybe. Oh, I did a search instead of going into a web browser. That's cool. Let's see if bhacker.com shows up. Yep, it looks like it looks pretty successful so far. I do have I'm uploading part 1 of the video on another computer, so my internet access is kind of running a bit slow. There we go. We got success. So I do have an internet connection, which is important, which means I'm on the network. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of here, and I'm going to do the same thing as I did before, but I've made a little icon on my desktop for the dev tools, and I made the icons kind of big, so you can see it when I record. So I'm going to go to Terminal Emulator and click on that. And this screen didn't get that much bigger, but the font looks a little better, actually. So I'm going to zoom out actually a little bit here, zoom in on it so you can see it. Let's see. Well, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. Okay, well, in any case, I can kind of see it on the top of the screen. However, I appear to be blocked. I am hosed. Let's see. Oh, no, I'm not. Okay, there we go. Alright, let's quit playing around with it. My mouse appears to be challenged. Okay, so I'm going to click back into the screen here, and let's just press escape. There we go. Let me run the emulator again. What I'm typing in, I'll just tell you, I'm typing in SU. SU is going to give me supervisor privileges. And then I'm going to type in net, my mouse is working, okay, net CFG. And net CFG is going to give you the configuration. Now I'm, looks like my port here, and this is the one I'm interested in. I'm running on an Ethernet port here. 192.168.1.106. That's all I really am pretty much trying to accomplish by going to the terminal window on the emulator. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of here, and then press a shift command to get my mouse out of here as well. And my mouse is now out. So I can just leave this stuff running. And same step as before, I'm going to go into the terminal window of my MacBook, and I'm going to change to the directory, if I can spell it correctly. Where am I here? I am, let's see. Good, so I'm going to change it to Android. Where is Android? Hold on one second. Android, I thought I had it here. Yes, I do have it. Okay, platform tools. Okay, so what I've done is I've changed the directory to the PWD to Android, which is where I have my Android API installed, and I changed it to also to the subdirectory platform tools. And in the platform tools directory is where I'm really trying to get to. And if you have this in your path, but I don't have my path set correctly, but if you have it in your path, what we're doing is we're running the ADB manager. And the ADB manager is keeping track of our emulator. So if I type in ADB space connect, and I'm really connecting to the 192.168.1.106, so 192.168.1. What is it, 106. And it should come back and it should tell me real quickly that it connected. So ADB is now connected to that port and it's running the emulator on 555 is the port number. So I can go ahead now and exit out of the terminal window. It's only because I just started it on this computer. Every time you start it, you're going to need to run the terminal emulator, figure out what the IP address is of the emulator, and then connect it to the ABD by going into the terminal prompt. It seems like a lot of work, but you can probably automate, create a batch file or something like that to automate the process. Now if I go into Eclipse real quick, and I've tested this before I started the video, and these are two samples I went over last week in the class. If I right mouse click on it and I go to Run As, and I select Android Application, it should bring up a little screen, which it does, and it says, and because I have this on manual, and I'm going to go through, I'm just going to demo what it looks like first, but then I'm going to go through in a few minutes and tell you, this is actually a 2.37, interesting. I'm running a 2.33 project on a 2.37 target, but it is still of API level 10, so it does work. But once you set the mode to manual, and I'm going to do that in a few minutes, you press on the emulator, you just select the menu. The Android emulator. I have two other emulators loaded here for default projects, but I'm going to select this one. I'm going to press OK. And you can say I installed it, and now the activity is starting. You can still see the same feedback as you do before, but if I go into that emulator window that I have running out there, lo and behold, I have the application started. So it says example 1, which was the application. So that's my application, and if I go into the window to see the applications, I can actually see application installed. And the reason kind of like why I like this in terms of installing it rather than just running it from the ISO is that it's here. So if I'm done with it, and let's say I created a homework assignment and I called it example number 1 and I'm running it, this is going to essentially give me my my feedback, and it'll be installed and running here. This little guy here gets installed. This is like one of the buttons you press on the side of the phone or the tablet or whatever device you're working on, and it'll like send you back or send you home, and it's really nice actually. It's not part of the default ISO build. It's one of the Android box that I installed, the one I showed you, the ISO image. It comes with that. You can probably install it yourself. I'm not quite sure what it's called, but we have the menu. We have, if you press on the menu, you get the menu button. You can adjust the speaker volume. You can manage apps, stuff like that. And this is the regular old menu. In fact, remember that little piece, that had the round circle on all the numbers and stuff? Here, the keyboard comes up automatically, and you can type in. The interface is the same. You still have the same functionality, and this little button here is going to give you the, speaker volume and, all of the, different things you'd normally get on the phone. So it's a full functioning phone for emulation purposes. So let's see how you get the connection to work, because that was already set up for you. Because I have installed example 1 and example 2. So what I'm going to do is create a brand new project like I was doing before when I ran out of disk space. And I'm going to say project, Android project. Or you can just say project and select Android project from here. Your choice. And this is going to be called Hello Emulator. Emulator, if I could spell it correctly. Next. And I'm going to select the project type as a 2.33. I probably could upgrade it to 2.37 because that's my emulator compatibility. Or if I install a different ISO, I can put a 4.0 on there or a 3.0, whatever. This is just for testing purposes. So select the target SDK that matches the emulator ISO that you're running. And then go ahead and put a package name in here. I'm going to call it Emulator M-Test. There we go. And then go ahead and click on Finish. At this point, you should be able to create a sample project. And when you do that, we're going to see it over in the left-hand column of the screen, and it says Hello Emulator. And this time, I'm not seeing those funny red things or anything. It actually looks like it's saving it, created it in the workspace directly directory as it should have. So now I'm going to right mouse click on it. I'm going to run through the same steps as I showed you last time, except for now I have enough memory. I'm going to go down to Run As, and I'm going to select Run Configuration, which is on the bottom of the screen here. I can also get to this menu from the Run menu up here as well. When I run the configuration, I'm basically just trying to say that this configuration is going to work with this project, and it's going to run manually, because I don't want to run one of the auto ADBs. Instead, I want to connect. I want the option to be able to select my target. So I'm going to put a name in here. I'm going to call this one Hello Android. And, oh no, I'm going to call this Hello Emulator. Emulator. And then my target here for the application I'm going to run, it's Hello Emulator. And then, so it's going to launch the default activity, and I have it on manual. So the target's on manual. You don't have to do this for everyone. I'm just showing you how to set it up, because I had the configuration already set, and I made 2 of them for example number 1, example number 2. However, you can, you can. And this looks like a dummy one I was playing around with. You can just set one up. You just need one to basically have the target on manual, so you get that little screen so you can select the emulator. And I'm going to click on Apply here, and so it applied the changes. And now I see in here I've got Hello Emulator in here. This one here I'm going to actually delete this guy here. There we go. So now if I want to run it, because this one's actually set to running on this project. So now if I run it, it should bring up the little screen that we saw before. Here it is. And choose a running emulator. Oh, how about this one? And this one is pressing OK. And we don't get too much feedback over here, but we're still using the ADB manager as an example. And well, actually, I guess I should show you the Hello Emulator application. So if I go back to my emulator, now I have loaded up automatically in my emulator. See how fast that was compared to loading the Android built-in emulator? So that's what I'm trying to tell you. This is 10 times faster, 100 times faster. So here now I have Hello Emulator, and this is that Hello World program I just created a few minutes ago. And if I click on the applications, I see, where is it? I see Hello Emulator right here, and I can run it again. And let me show you something else as well. The emulator is fully integrated, and you get the same functionality as if, that's interesting, that's just the label scrolling. You get the same functionality as if you were running with the built-in API emulator. So let me show you something real quick that's actually kind of fun. In one of my examples that I went through in the last lecture, I Well, let me show you actually real quick here. Example number 2. Example number 2 was a test of the debugger actually. And in example number 2, let me properly demonstrate this now that I have a running emulator. It made some information in a log, and it created something called test with the string value me, and basically showing you how you can run an application and get the debug information from the DDMS. And so I was attempting last lecture to run it in the Android API emulator, and I'm going to show you that this is just a proof of functionality that it actually works in the built-in emulator as well. So if I were to run example 2, and now that I have the configuration already, I can just go Android application run, and it should bring up that little window in a few minutes. Oops, oh, actually it ran it. Okay. Didn't bring up the window, it just ran it, is what it did, because the emulator was already loaded and I had already run example 2. So if I come over here and I go and run as Android application, oh, this one's going to do it. Okay, well, anyway, and oh, here we go, hello emulator. You can kind of sort of see this happen in real time. If we go here and go run application, it's already installed on the emulator, but we see it here, and we go here, run application. This makes it so much faster. And what we're seeing down here on the window is the same information that we would normally see if we were using the other emulator. And this is all of the, ADB started, application launched, application cleaned up. And if I wanted to, I can actually remove those applications. In fact, I have all 3 of those applications running simultaneously. If I go into my settings and I look at, let's take a look here, applications, and I go into manage applications. I can see example number 1, example number 2, example number 3, and if I want to, as an example, I can remove one of these examples if I wanted to. If I clicked on, let's say, hello emulator, and I can uninstall it, take it off. So, if you try to do that with the built-in emulator, and it gets, and I like those 2 examples, so I'm going to leave them on there. It gets a little, it's not quite as easy, and plus look how fast that emulator is running with all of the other software I have running, and the recording stuff is running on this computer. Anyway, just to finish my sales pitch on the emulator, that's like the best running emulator I've ever seen. So anyway, if I take a look at the what's going on with the emulator, I can sort of see that, as an example, if I run example number 2 here, example number 2 actually sets some debug information. And we have this thing, in fact, let me run example number 2. So that one's running. And so we're going to see it immediately. So we see it running, okay. If I change the view in Eclipse and I put the window on I open the perspective of the DDMS, what I'm going to get is the DDMS view. And what I was going over last time was, the concept of, well, we can debug. And here I've run example number 2 a couple of times, and what I'm looking at right now actually is the bottom of this screen here, where I can see the output of all the messages and all of the things that are going on with this process that's running. And we can see we had a shutdown, and then here's that test that I was talking about. I put a tag in there that showed the word text, so I can kind of look at it and I can sort of see what's going on in terms of the activity. And what I've done here is I've created a filter. So if I go, like, for example, let me show you what this filter looks like. And I've run it a couple of times already. So if I filter it out, I see I've got I can find the tag that I put in there, and so it allows me to, with all that messages and all that stuff that comes out on the screen, I can actually find what's going on, and I can, find that little thing. And so basically the way you create these filters is you give it a name, like, filter name up there, and you give it a tag, and in this case the tag we're looking for is test. I go like that. And so I can kind of see, well, there's 2 instances of in that log actually. So when I click on here, I can no filters, or I can filter for certain things, and it allows me to debug, and it allows me to see. And I also have other information here as well that I can look at and kind of troubleshoot, and I can kind of see what's going on in terms of the interface, and I can make these windows bigger or smaller. switch the tabs associated with, you know, the threads, application tracker, file explorer, all sorts of different things in terms of the information. And this window, if you're stuck here, the way you get back out, you can see this one's online, is we go back to the window and we change the perspective back to Java, because we could put it on debug as an example. We can put, and it's going to give us our debug screen with the debugging information down here and the console information over here, or I can put the perspective back on Java, which is where I like it back on Java, which is the screen here, which is being able to test. And this application here has a log I, and this is what I'm talking about. I can put this log information in here. It's running in this emulator over here, but I'm seeing the activity show up in the DDMS, which means all of the tools for the emulator and the emulation and the debugging work with this emulator, even though this is not the built-in emulator. And we can also see that this emulator, in fact, this emulator should be doing a more true job than anything else in terms of being able to, give us thread programming capabilities and stuff like that. For example, this first one here, this source code I went over last week, but I wasn't able to test it. But I can test it to you right now, actually. For those people who are taking the Android class, you might be interested in actually seeing this work properly. And what am I talking about? Well, this one demonstrated the concept of the different states of the life cycle of the object, and that the object itself was keeping track of the number of times it was paused, killed, and stopped. And on the create, these were set variables. And then on the certain events that occur, for example, on a resume, on a start, on a stop, on a pause, it was incrementing this variable, so it kept track of how many times the process state has changed on a destroy, on a kill. So we have a plus going on to keep track of the stops, the pauses, and the pluses and stuff. So if I run this in the emulator, let's see what's my emulator doing. Okay, my emulator is free. If I take and I run this application in the emulator, let's go ahead and run it. There we go. See, now when it comes up, it says 0 pause, 0 stopped, 0 killed. If I kind of go in here and, let's see, go back to home, and then I run it again, I believe this is example number 1. I can say it was paused once and stopped once because I went and I went over here. If I press the escape button, I believe it's a stop. Let's take a look here, actually. Example number 1. It's a complete stop, which means the life of the object actually stopped. I took it down. The only way I can mimic a kill, I believe, is that if I terminated it abnormally somehow. If I have this running and this is running, and if I go home and I run, let's say example number 2. Let's say example number 2. Let's have example number 2 running, and then I go back home, and let's go back to example number 1. Now I see it was stopped and it was paused one time again because I had one running before. So I can go like this. For example, go back to example number 1, and now I see 2. I have 2 instances of this running. And so I'm going to go back home and hit example number 1 again, and I can do this all day, but now I have 3. So if I pressed escape to close this one, if I checked my running processes at any one moment of time, in fact, because I closed it, I believe it closed completely. It closed all 3 because I pressed the escape key, which is interesting. And what I did was, you couldn't see it on the video, but I pressed the escape button on my computer. So you can also go to the App Store and install apps on here. In fact, you can make this VirtualBox bigger and run it as a virtual machine on your computer. Or you can take this ISO image. It's not a bad release, actually. I kind of like it. I changed the resolution to make it real big, so you can kind of see stuff on the screen. You can go through and set the settings differently if you want to check the display, install different functionality for you. It even has the message notification on the top. It's going to say unable to download latest data. Well, that's okay. I don't know what it was trying to download. I clear that notification. So what I'm going to do is use this emulator, my new best friend, my new emulator. I'm going to use this one now for all of the applications that I'm going to be developing in the Android class. I might go ahead and update it if I can find a decent 4.0 emulator. I might do that. Otherwise, everything I'm doing in the class can be demonstrated using this emulator here. And I believe you're going to find this is going to make your life a lot easier. It's so much better than using the built-in Android emulator. And once you get it all installed, it's worth the effort. The only thing you have to do is remember is every time you reboot the computer, you're going to need to open up that terminal prompt and connect the ADB. But I think I'm going to write a little script actually, and I'll write the little script so that perhaps when I open up Eclipse it does it for me automatically. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you're able to install a Android x86 emulator in VirtualBox yourself, because it will make your life a lot easier. And stay tuned for the next video. And when I come up, occasionally when I come up with stuff like this, what is it? It gives me the date. I was like, what is that doing? It's giving me the date. Today's, I believe, the 3rd of February. Anyway, long story short, when I come up with nifty stuff like this, I'll make more videos on it. But I really had to solve my problem because I was having problems running that emulator and getting it to load like within the course of the lecture I was giving. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned next time for more Android programming. I believe I am going to be putting together 3 or 4 more examples for Monday. So talk to you soon.